Let's dive deep into tinnitus today. We've got some really interesting stuff from Dr. Latour, like really cutting edge insights into this whole thing.
It's funny, even how we define tinnitus is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, most doctors just say, oh, it's any sound, you hear that's not coming from outside your head.
Right. So like if I can hear my own heartbeat, boom, tinnitus.
And that's like a huge oversimplification, and the Dr. Latour is really pushing back against that. Because it just lumps, all these different things together, which makes finding an explanation, let alone a cure, almost impossible.
So what's Dr. Latour's take then on like what real tinnitus is?
He defines it as acoustic perception not produced by any sound source, neither external nor internal to our body.
So it's not just like any phantom noise then?
It's got to be a sound that's not actually a real physical sound wave.
Gotcha. So it's not imagined. It's not
right.
Like the organized sounds of music or voices like hallucinations.
Exactly.
It's like a bioelectric signal then.
Yeah, it's a bioelectric signal coming from somewhere in the body that your brain is interpreting as sound.
Wait, so if I like stuck a microphone in my ear and tried to record my tinnitus, there would be nothing there.
Exactly.
Whoa, that's freaky.
That's one way to distinguish it from, say, your heartbeat becoming more audible, which is a real physical sound.
Right.
Dr. Latour calls those somato sounds.
Okay, so like when you can hear your pulse in your ear, that's not tinnitus.
Exactly.
That's just your body's soundtrack getting a little too loud.
Right. And that distinction matters because, different origins, maybe different solutions.
Okay, so back to real tinnitus. If it's not a true sound wave, like where is this phantom signal coming from?
Well, based on, how our ears and our brains work, there's only one place it could be coming from, the inner ear, and specifically a part called the cochlea.
But wait, don't we hear with our outer ear, like, the part we can actually see?
Absolutely, but sound waves, they travel through the outer ear, then through the middle ear, and finally they reach the inner ear, and that's where those vibrations get converted into like electrical signals that the brain can understand.
Ah, so it's in the inner ear, the cochlea, where things kind of go haywire.
Exactly.
And send these like false signals up to the brain.
Exactly.
So what is causing that misfire in the first place?
Well, this is where Dr. Latour's work gets really interesting. He points to a condition called hydrops as a potential culprit in many, if not all cases.
Hydrops. Okay, that sounds kind of serious. What is that exactly?
Well, inside the cochlea, there are these tiny, delicate hair cells that are like key for converting sound vibrations into those electrical signals.
Right.
Hydrops is when there's an increase in fluid volume and pressure inside the inner ear.
Oh.
Imagine a water balloon being slowly overfilled. That pressure now applied to those delicate hair cells. That's what Dr. Latour believes can trigger the misfiring that we experience as tinnitus.
So hydrops is basically like stressing out those poor little hair cells, making them send out an SOS that our brain misinterprets as sound?
Yeah, kinda.
But I always thought that hydrops only caused like the tinnitus that kind of comes and goes, not the constant ringing.
That's actually a very common misunderstanding.
Is it?
Yeah, Dr. Latour argues that hydrops can cause both fluctuating and fixed tinnitus.
Wait, seriously. So even if you've got that like never-ending ringing, it could still be tied to this like fluid pressure issue.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so that means it's not hopeless. Like, you don't have to just give up and think it's permanent.
Exactly.
Like exploring that hydrops angle could open up like new avenues for treatment.
Exactly. That's really the key.
That's incredibly hopeful. So it sounds like hydrops is like the key player in a lot of these cases.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah.
But, Dr. Latour is not afraid to question his own conclusions.
Yeah.
He's got this scientific curiosity that keeps him, digging deeper.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's how we learn, right? What kind of evidence made him second guess himself about hydrops?
Well, there's this one patient case.
Ooh, a medical mystery. I'm in. Tell me more.
So this patient had a rare tumor in their inner ear and had to have surgery to remove it.
Okay, so serious stuff.
Very serious stuff.
Did they remove the whole inner ear?
They did. It's called a translabyrinthine surgery, which essentially means the entire inner ear on that side was removed.
Whoa, so this person was completely deaf on that side.
Yes, and this is where it gets really mind-blowing.
Okay.
Even with no inner ear, this patient still experienced fluctuating tinnitus.
Wait, hold on. You're saying the part of the ear where tinnitus is supposedly coming from was gone?
Completely gone.
And they still had it?
Yes.
Okay, that just broke my brain a little bit.
It's a real head scratcher, right?
Yeah.
And to make things even weirder, the patient's tinnitus responded to medication, like the kind typically used to manage hydrops.
But if there's no inner ear, how can there be hydrops? So how could the medication even be working?
That's the million-dollar question, and that sent Dr. Latore back to the drawing board. This case seriously challenged the idea that fluctuating tinnitus always originates from high drops in the inner ear.
Okay, so, what's the alternative? Where else could that phantom sound be coming from?
It kind of suggests that other mechanisms, possibly even within the brain itself, could be at play.
Whoa, so you're saying my brain could be making up this ringing all on its own?
It really highlights the incredible complexity and adaptability of the brain. Think of the concept of neuroplasticity.
I've heard of that. It's how our brains kind of rewire themselves, like when people learn new skills or recover from a stroke or something.
Exactly. It's the brain's ability to change and adapt. Now imagine the brain as a city, right, with roads representing neural pathways. And when a road closes, in this case because of hearing loss, the city builds new routes.
Okay.
That's neuroplasticity in action. But sometimes those new routes, they lead to unexpected detours.
Oh, so you're saying, in some cases, the brain trying to compensate for hearing loss could actually, result in tinnitus.
That's one possible explanation, and this patient case suggests that even the central auditory pathways, the parts of the brain that actually process sound, can be involved in generating fluctuating tinnitus.
Mind blown. This is way more complex than I ever imagined. And if medication can impact tinnitus that's not coming from the inner ear, does that mean we don't really understand how those treatments work either?
It definitely raises some important questions, could it be that these medications aren't just acting on the inner ear, but they're also influencing the brain's activity? Are we, targeting the root cause, or are we just masking the symptoms?
That's a huge question, and honestly, a little unsettling.
Yeah.
Are we, barking up the wrong tree with how we approach this?
It's a call for more research, for, a deeper understanding of this whole, intricate interplay between the ear and the brain,
Yeah.
But it's also a reminder of just how incredible, how complex, our brains really are.
I'm starting to see why Dr. Latore is such a respected figure in the field,
Yeah.
He's not afraid to admit what we don't know and to keep searching for answers. I have to admit, I'm a little less freaked out about my own tinnitus now, knowing there's so much we're still figuring out.
That's the beauty of science.
Yeah.
It's a constant journey of discovery.
Well said. So what does all this mean for someone dealing with tinnitus right now? What are the key takeaways? What are the key takeaways from Dr. Latore's work?
First and foremost, remember that old definition of tinnitus, any sound that's not coming from an external source.
Right.
That's totally outdated and unhelpful.
Yeah.
Dr. Latore's definition, the more precise one, focusing on those phantom bioelectric signals. That helps us really zero in on the real culprit.
So forget everything you thought you knew about tinnitus.
Exactly.
It's way more complex than just ringing in the ear.
It really is.
And a big part of that complexity is recognizing the role that high drops could be playing.
Yeah.
Even in those cases of constant never-ending tinnitus.
That's a huge one, because it means that there might be a treatable cause.
Yeah.
Even when you think, I've just got to live with this ringing forever.
Yeah, exactly. But then Dr. Latore's own research throws this curveball.
Right.
With that patient who had their inner ear removed.
Yeah.
And still had tinnitus.
Right.
That case really blew my mind.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. It means high drops might not be the only bad guy here.
Exactly.
And that our brains could be generating these phantom sounds all on their own, maybe through neuroplasticity.
Yeah, it really challenges us to think differently about tinnitus. It may not always be just a problem of the ears.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be a matter of the brain, trying to adapt and make sense of a lack of input.
So if someone's, struggling with tinnitus, what should they do?
Well, first, find a healthcare professional who's really up to date on the latest research,
Yeah.
who's willing to consider all the possibilities.
Right, and don't lose hope.
Absolutely.
There's so much research happening.
Yeah.
And with every new discovery, we're getting closer and closer to, really understanding and effectively treating this.
Absolutely. Dr. Latore's work, it's a call to action for both researchers and for people living with tinnitus.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never give up on finding solutions.
This deep dive has been fascinating.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty empowering.
Good.
Tinnitus isn't just some mysterious ailment we have to passively accept.
Right.
It's a complex puzzle that we're finally starting to unravel.
Exactly. As we learn more, new treatment options,
Yeah.
new possibilities for relief, they'll emerge.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive is giving you, the listener, a new perspective on tinnitus.
Yeah.
A sense of hope and the motivation to keep learning and seeking solutions.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your own experience, the better equipped you'll be to advocate for yourself and find the right path to relief.
That's the spirit of the deep dive.
Yes.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ears open to new possibilities.
Absolutely.
Until next time.